talk about love. Dreams can find a way to brighten up every day. So step into your world and the magic that you create. Start daydreaming.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today here at SPS 2021 and for joining our panel discussion today here on ways to improve the home resale value and increase buyer interest. So, if you currently have a property or if you're looking to buy a property and you're thinking of maybe perhaps selling it soon or selling it in maybe 3 or 5 years' time in the near future, right? And you want to sort of preserve your property's value or try to maximize the amount of the offer that you can get from an interested buyer. This is the panel that you have to pay attention to. And we have amazing panelists with us today. I'll introduce them to you. The first up, we have Melvin Lim, who is the Senior Associate Group District Director of PropNext and the CEO and co-founder of the Property Lim Brothers team. Melvin specializes in crafting unique content and developing intensive marketing and advertising campaigns for his clients and their properties. And then we also have Rama, who is the key executive officer at SRI, the Singapore Realtors Inc. Now, Rama has been in the real estate business since 2008. And as a certified trainer, assessor, and curriculum developer, Rama has mentored so many real estate agents over the years. And finally, we have Mr. Wilson Tay. Now, Wilson is the executive director at Rest and Relax Interior Design. And Wilson has actually over 20 years of experience as an interior designer. And he's so well versed in handling all sorts of residential projects and has so many great reviews and referrals and returning customers with his excellent service. And Wilson earlier was just boasting to us about how his own properties got so many offers because of the way he designed it. So let's start right from the top. All right. To all of you, right? To what extent do you actually think the condition of the unit influences its valuation or the value of the property itself? Would you like to start, Rama?
Yeah, I think what we're looking at here is two different things. One is the actual value of the property, and what we call the other, the perceived value. The perceived value is where people like, Melvin, they come there, they dress up the whole unit and everything. So they get the price of the property to a different level. So that's what we call perceived value. So, yeah, that's the difference between the two types of valuation.
What
Mm.
about you, Melvin? What do you think? In your experience, do you think that the condition of the unit, just based on your own observation, does it affect the valuation or the amount of money that people are willing to offer?
Right. Yeah. Hi, Ning, Rama, and Wilson. Good to be here. Hi. Yeah, definitely. I think that the condition of the place definitely will be one of the very key impact when it comes to marketing a property. So I think in the very first instance is that if somebody has already had a property and then they are thinking of placing it in the market, I think the very first thing that they can consider in terms of a strategy to increase the resale value is to think about the mindset of positioning the property first. So what do we mean by positioning is that look at the property that you have right now in terms as in like is a product that you're ready to launch, because a lot of times we notice what is happening in the market is that a lot of home sellers, they launch their property in a very hasty manner, so they just wanted to quickly list it up on all the platforms or all the portals, which is all good and fine. The only thing is that because real estate is a very high quantum product, and a lot of times buyers, they buy both with emotional factors, they also buy with rationale factors. So most of the time when a buyer is buying a property for own stay, and let's say it's not for pure investment, they will definitely use both sides of their perspective. Whether do they feel good in this property, and then after feeling good, they will then do homework on the numbers, the valuation, the real value, the bank valuation, and stuff like that. So I think both sets of perspective, after a combination, if is a green light, then the buyer will proceed. So I think the condition when they physically visits the home is very important, because that is the key reason why developers, they spend so much effort to dress up their show flats. And even though after 3 years, maybe if you buy a new launch property, is all good and fresh and new, but basically you're getting a home with fittings and fixtures. You're not getting the furnitures, you're not getting the renovation, but developers still put in a lot of effort to dress up the place, to renovate the showroom, so that you have a very good experience on visualizing what you can potentially do about the place. So I think small little things like maybe touching out the paintwork. I mean, like my home, I have 4 kids, so my kids will, use the marker and draw the walls and stuff like that. I mean, if I want to sell my home, I definitely would do a repaint. Maybe, sometimes after you use your bathroom for 3 to 4 years, there's a little bit of peeling paintwork at the top because of moisture. You might just want to touch up that a little bit. So I think the condition plays a big part in the physical impression that the buyers will have when they walk into your place.
Well, it's great that you mentioned kids and how much distraction kids can bring into the home, right? I have a son of my own, and yeah, I'm kind of anticipating that to happen in the next few years as well. Yeah. And Wilson, you have kids too, right?
Yeah, I got
You
5 kids,
earlier.
1 boy, 4 girls.
Wow.
So
My
you
elder
yourself
son-
has experienced the kind of destruction they bring into the home as well, correct?
So me and brother Melvin Wright can become a basketball team. 2 of us.
Sure. We need Rama. We need Rama to help us.
Yeah.
I've got two red on here.
Become referee.
Well, in this case, then when maybe you have pets or whether you have kids, or maybe just because you live there for a very, very long time. And of course, there's going to be some wear and tear in the property, So before you sell it, Wilson, what kind of tips do you have for, sellers or property owners to kind of like freshen up their place on a, sort of a budget because, they're selling the place. They don't want to spend too much renovating. What kind of tips do you have for these people?
Okay, I think the most important thing, right, firstly, is to clear all those things that is not usable in the house to be tidy first. Because when sometime I went to some house, right, well, the house can really like a mountain, like so many things they just to keep. I think most of the buyer when they go in, right, the first thing is comfortable. Yeah, firstly, and there's one thing that you must do, one die must do one is to repaint the whole house in white color. Yeah. So sometimes we will help some friend, right, when they want to list their house, right? We'll paint. Paint is the most important thing that you want to paint over the house, and we get nice curtain from not have to be expensive, can be in Taobao or what, right? Dress up a bit like the curtain, yeah. Then the toilet also very important. Although some of the buyer will redo the toilet, but have to keep it very clean. So when people come in, right, they have the type of like feel, like, wait, this house is like the feeling is important. And I also have some customer, right, they put some like nice perfume, like to like make the whole house like you go in like wow, like you go ion like that, got the type of I don't know. I think this also help a bit lah.
It's like a
But of
4D
course,
experience.
yeah, but I think at the end of the day, comfortable is the most important thing. You welcome people coming because if let's say buyer go in, right, and the house is not, especially the light is not enough, will make the house very down. Yeah, this is what I see lah, to my view.
I got to really agree with the two of them. Like, basically it's the first impression. The same buyer is actually viewing multiple houses. So if you position your house in this manner, I mean, it takes a lot of effort. I mean, if you have decided to sell, then I think there are some things that you have to do, to achieve the price that you want. So it's a two-way thing, And like what Wilson said, the visual effects, the smell, and what you hear. So some people even have some very soothing music, like what
Yeah.
Melvin said. When you go to the show flat, it's like designed to make you make that decision. It's,
Emotion, make you like.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I think what Wilson mentioned earlier, painting, curtains, and yeah, like the smells and all that, it's what we commonly in the industry would call home staging, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So when it comes to selling the property itself, Rama and Melvin, in your own experience, how much does home staging actually help with getting offers from buyers or getting buyers really interested in the place?
I would think that is the most important aspect. If I could just repeat what Melvin said earlier, you got to get the place ready. All right. If you are not ready, then you're not going to achieve the price that you want. But unfortunately, what I noticed in recent times is it's pretty difficult to convince, some of the owners to do away with what they are already comfortable with, to pack everything up and put it to storage and then set the house up again because they're losing their comfort. But this I feel is a must if you really want to sell high price and fast. Yeah. So only maybe you want to add on.
Yeah, I agree with Rama. Yeah, so 15 years ago when I first started real estate, all the trend is that empty houses are actually very easy to sell. So that was the old trend in the past, right? But I think with the evolution of social media, YouTube now being the biggest consumption of TV, and with HGTV that came out, about 5 to 8 years back, I think everybody is spoiled for seeing very beautiful houses, and I think this thing creeping into the Asian market in the sense that and I think in the sense that when somebody wants to walk into an empty house, sometimes when it's an empty house compared to a house that is done up nicely with the right furnitures and the right home staging accessories, it just feels entirely different. The key reason is because, number one, I think there's been some statistics and research that has shown that when a person walks into a place, the first 8 seconds they already emotionally and subconsciously make a decision whether they feel good about the place. Secondly is that when right furnitures are being placed into an empty home, it enlarges the feel of the home. visually, and it helps the buyers visualize, hey, can I really put in a 6-seater dining here, or 8-seater, or maybe an L-shaped sofa, or maybe just a 2-seater sofa. So I think visually it helps the buyers to visualize, even though buyers are definitely very savvy, sellers are savvy, buyers are savvy. Everybody knows that these are furnitures that will be removed when they bought the place, and it will definitely not be included in the sale, but they appreciate the fact that these efforts are done here, so it helps them to visualize how it looks like after they would have bought the house. So I think home staging is definitely important, and if as a home seller you really want to attract more potential buyers, I think home staging is definitely the first stage that you have to strongly consider. And we also noticed that with the evolution of social media, in the past 5 years, the first viewing technically right now starts on the phone. So this is considered the first viewing already, because if you don't put in a little bit of effort to like what we said, Rama said, declutter, paint up, do a bit of home staging, and then create some good photographs or maybe good videos, so that you can market the property firstly on the phone first to attract enough viewers to come physically. And the first physical viewing is now considered the second viewing per se. So I think doing up this preparation work is definitely beneficial for you as a homeowner.
We have a question that has just come in from the audience. Right, I think this is more directed towards Wilson. Now,
Oh,
Wilson,
me.
earlier you mentioned the different things that we can do, like painting the walls, changing the curtains. Now, Jennifer asks, what about the floors then? What can we do to the floors?
Okay, so if sometimes we market some house, right? Maybe some ceramic tiles or some homogeneous, right? They are very those like center part. They have this type of like grouting start to be black, right? Of course, the most cheapest way is to redo the grout. We can always ask a tiler to remove the grout, do it nicely, and to patch back. This is first. Secondly, we can use a vinyl floor tiles. All right, vinyl nowadays is the price is very good. If lah, but I don't do it on me because we are ID. If you can buy in Taobao, the price is much more cheaper. And if you go and learn how to DIY to install, will be much more cheaper. So vinyl is a very good choice to redo the whole floor. So again, if you just paint the whole house, put a nice curtain with a nice vinyl floor, right? I think it's perfect. Yeah.
Right.
But if you think that is a bit too troublesome, then a tiler will be done. Just remove the ground and polish a bit, then will be very nice.
And then we have another question in the same thread, actually, from Boon Fu. What about stained marble floors? Marble takes a lot of maintenance, definitely,
Yes.
right? It costs a lot of maintenance as well, and it stains so easily.
All right, so this is the trade secret lah, but because today is this talk show, I'm going to share this secret lah. You want to hear?
Of course.
Okay, for marble, as you know, marble, right, is porous. So when you have coke, you have curry, have anything, right, you will just stain in. So what we do, right, we are using this type of this 华语叫做漂白水, you know,
Bleach.
Yeah. So I teach you this method, don't share out. This one is only for you. Wherever there's badges down there, right, you use the tissue paper or cloth, just put down there and pour the the pitch water on the surface, right, for 1 day, around 24 hours. The next day, right, you will see the color will be like fade a bit slowly. So it depends where it got stain, right? You just use this method, then you can be done. Okay, and the second method is you just solid put the liquid on the area and you use the 保鲜纸, you know,
cling wrap?
The cling wrap just 量上去, put on top.
Also
so same thing.
Cling wrap on top.
Also same thing. 1 day you will see the color will fade a bit. Yeah.
Wow.
Trade secret.
Wow. So all of you're in luck. You've got the trade secrets from Wilson.
Yeah.
All right. So we also have some questions about staging. Now, going back to staging, a lot of interest in this one from the audience, right? How much does it cost for home staging? And is it really, really necessary when the buyer is just going to remove all these, when all this is going to be removed when the buyer moves in?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting thing. Maybe I start first. So the interesting thing is that we've experimented with home staging for the past 3 years. Right now, almost close to 90% of the properties we market, they go through home staging. So of course, home staging has three-part process. Firstly is if the sellers are staying in the home, definitely the home staging will stay throughout the whole marketing period, because the viewings will continue to take place. And how do we do that is through a process about on decluttering, as well as removing some of the furnitures and putting them into storage, and then replacing them with the correct furniture and of course the accessories. So the effectiveness has been quite interesting, because even though a lot of buyers, when they buy a property, they will eventually renovate the whole place, they still appreciate home staging. And all these feedbacks that we collected over the past 3 years, it comes from the buyers themselves, that they love the fact that the properties that they visit are home staged, and they can really visualize the space, the feeling. And there's so many different instances. So for example, sometimes when, let's say, a buyer visits a 3-bedroom condominium, but 2 of the bedrooms don't have queen beds, because one of the bedrooms is used as a playroom, the other bedroom is used as a kids study room. And maybe most of the objections that previous buyers will have is that, hey, I felt that the room is quite small, can I put in a queen bed and stuff like that. But after home staging, when side tables, queen beds go in, a study table goes in, and then the feeling just changes instantly. So I would say that the effectiveness has proven in itself, and home staging is not a new thing in the West. It happened since 1980 plus, all the way till date. So I think it's a tested and proven kind of visual strategy that helps buyers to appreciate the place better.
Right, but how about who will have to bear the cost of this home staging? And this is a question from Jess Tan. How much does it cost usually, and who will have to bear the cost? And then we also have other related questions from Terrence as well as Hokyo. Right, does the additional touch-up cost actually justify, since most buyers will negotiate based on the valuation alone?
Yeah. So maybe Rama can start first.
No, I think it's an individual thing. I think it's who they are working with. I'm not sure about Melvin, but I think it depends on the real estate agent they are working with. Some of them actually absorb the cost because they have a very specialized plan that they actually express to the sellers. So if they buy into this, they most probably may bear the cost. Whereas the others, they may have a different plan. Part of it may be borne by the seller, part of it by the agent. So it all depends. So to answer that question, I think one of the most important things is to remove excessive stuff in the house. That's the first thing, all right? Even before you start to do anything else. So at least for a start, they would encourage, most of them would encourage consumers to store unwanted items elsewhere, in a storage. So I believe, again, it all depends between the agent and the sellers, who's going to pay for it. It depends on what their proposals are. So yeah. Melvin.
Thanks, Rama. I think in terms of costing in the market, there's a couple of vendors that are pretty efficient, because they have so-called different sets of furnitures. They have their own warehouses, and so definitely the home staging has gained a lot of traction in Singapore this year, and I think it's a great thing for Singapore market. Costing wise, it will range based on size of the property, so it can go anywhere from like $1,000 a month to, maybe for landed property, it can even go up to about $4,000 a month. So it really depends on your strategy as a homeowner, and also the collaboration with your real estate salesperson. And like Rama said, it depends. Sometimes the homeowners, they want to bear it themselves. Sometimes the salesperson offer to bear it, depending on a campaign that both of them agree on in terms of the partnership to market the place. So I think end of the day is really based on discussion that you have with your own real estate salesperson. Yeah, in terms of touching up, I think definitely is worth it, because I think the key is that we want to attract enough buyer audience to view the place with ease. That means we don't want them to walk through your place and then they have a lot of obstacles that present themselves in their mind. For example, they walk past your living room and then they see that there's some cracks here, and these cracks might not be like very serious crack. It might just be paint cracks that happens after living there for 10 years. Or maybe they walk past this place, they saw some little chips off the certain parts of the place and things like that. So I think small little touch-ups are definitely worth it, because it increases the impression and care for the property. And resale properties, definitely, if you want to position your property out of the 80,000 advertisements in the portals, right? And I think it's very important to make sure that it stands out from the crowd, because you only have this property that you want to find the right buyer that appreciates the advantages of this home. You want to find the right buyer that appreciates the value of this home. So you don't want to let small little thing like on the surface, like small little paintworks, to affect your overall experience that you want to present to the market.
Just to add on one more thing to the person who had the question, whether it actually adds value, this whole process adds value. The important thing is, at the end of the day, like how I started earlier on, actual value against perceived value, right? So if you just compare two houses side by side, they are actually having the both same value most of the time. But if one is dressed up, the perceived value differs. So to answer his question, it's a definite yes. Yeah, because when people walk in, the feeling is different. Yeah, so.
Right. So really, it's very important to stage your homes just so that you are able to appeal to more buyers, and also hopefully you can also drive up the value, or the getting better offers from the buyers. Now, let's go back right to the start. When we first buy a property, and when we first want to design it and renovate it nicely to suit our lifestyles. Now, Wilson, we have quite a few questions coming in from our audience, when they want to do a bit more extensive works to the place. So Danny is asking, right, does erecting a loft for a high ceiling unit actually appreciate or depreciate the value of the property?
Okay, I think it's a good thing. If let's say nowadays the house is small, so some developer they mean to build high ceiling like 6 meter, 4 meter, and 5 meter. So I think this is an advantage that you build this loft. All right. We talk about some project, right? That they actually want to have a higher rental. So actually, what they do, they actually create a loft on top, and then below is a study area, and it actually increase the rental of the house. Yeah, so I think it's a good advantage to have a loft. If you have a high ceiling more than 3.5 meter, then that would be a very good selling point in future. Yeah.
And then what about older properties and older houses? The ones are probably more than 40 or 50 years old. So Keith Chung is asking, what can we do to help beautify and sell an older house?
Well, again, we go back to comfortable level. All right. I think no matter example, no matter how ugly we are, you got nice hair, nice clothes, more or less can score a bit of point. So to me, right, I think house also the same thing. No matter it's 40 years, 50 years, right, as long as I mentioned the three major things just now, right, repaint the whole house, choose a nice curtain, remove all those things that is extra one, especially those unused things, all clear away. I think that will be a very good direction for when you're selling a house. Yeah.
Okay, then I think some of our audience here, they are landlords as well, and
Landlord.
they have properties that are currently rented out, having tenants in the property. Then they are asking, how can we do home staging to these properties if people are still living in there? If you still have tenants living in there, how can you do home staging to sell your property then?
Oh. So this one is whose question? My one.
Well, I think maybe all of you, or maybe Rama, you can start.
I think you see, if initially, before the first rental or the previous rentals have already begun, okay, if you have already shot a very good video or photographs of the place, all right, then it'll be easier for you to, like what Melvin said, the viewing starts on the phone, So even before they get to the place, all right, so you can actually show them this is how it was before. I mean, in case if it is different now, okay, you can always say them this is how it was before, and this is how we are going to bring it back to, when you're going to take over the place. So, and the way you edit the video and the things that you shoot, it's very, very important, the things that you say. So all this is going to help you achieve a better rental as compared to any other units who's your competitor, for the matter of fact, yeah.
And what if they didn't have any nice pictures or videos from before the tenants moved in then? Right now the place probably doesn't look great because the tenants have kids as well, and the kids are scribbling all over the walls, as we all know very well, right? So what can they do? Do they have to wait for the tenants to move up before they can, kind of make the place look good again and then start the selling process?
I think
What can they start at now?
that's the whole reason they're watching this now. So at the first opportunity, they should go and get it done, yeah?
This one I can help. This one I can help. Okay, I can do a visual staging for them.
A
Means
visual,
that
so
the actual unit, we can do a visual one. We can do some design, to help them to see the potential of the house next time when they buy. Yeah.
So like a virtual 3D rendering of the
Something like that. Yeah,
property.
something
Yeah,
like
Right.
that.
So
yeah,
you can get Mr. Wilson here to help you with
Yes,
that.
yes, yes.
yeah.
Only for here, only
There's
for here.
there's also one more solution is that on top of what Rama and Wilson say in terms of virtual staging, filming it before you rent out first. I think one thing is that if you're already in the in between part of your tenancy coming towards the end, and then you just heard about this few strategies, I think you can have a very healthy conversation with your current tenant. Just share with them that the lease is coming out in 1 to 2 months. You just want to get the place a little bit ready in the market without disturbing them for too much of a time. There are services in the market that offers like a 1 day steamed staging, so you can engage external vendors to do a 1 day home staging, provided your tenant is agreeable to give you that few hours. And then you can stage up the place with accessories and perhaps not a very major one, a bit more partial kind of home staging with the right accessories, and then send in your photographer, take nice photographs of the place, and then let your salesperson to kickstart the whole marketing process first on the platforms online. And then the staging services for 1 day is that they will just stage up the place, and then after that few hours you have completed your filming, they will remove everything and restore back to the original condition. So that's how perhaps you can strategize a little bit if you are finding the next tenant or you are trying to market the property while on tenancy.
So the ideal would be you already have the videos or the photos before the tenants move in. But if the tenants are already there, then you could either do a 3D rendering of what the place could ideally look like, or get home staging services to help you do up the place nicely for a few hours to take the proper photos and videos that you will need
Yeah, yeah,
to sell the property.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
we have a question that has come in about landed properties, though. Is it worth, this is from Shirley Chu, for landed properties, is it worth doing renovation or adding floor space to increase the value? Rama and Melvin, have you encountered landed property that have additional floor space added onto them, and does that actually help with the selling?
Melvin, you first.
Right. I think if it's talking about adding additional floor space, I presume it's talking about doing A and things like that to maybe really increasing the amount of GFA that you can potentially add on. I think based on our experience for landed property buyers, they belong to a very unique category of buyers. They all come in from different preferences. Some of the buyers, they want to buy landed properties with the purpose of rebuilding. Some will want to buy something that is very moved in. Some will want to buy a brand new from developers who have tore down and rebuilt and put it in the resale market. I think for landed properties, importantly is to sell the potential, is to communicate and articulate the potential of what buyers can potentially do after they buy. I personally think that if there is an over investment in A&A, it might not perform as I would say obviously as how apartments and maybe condominiums will have in terms of the effect of doing that. So I think that it's really about calculating the costing that maybe what the buyer can do in terms of after buying this, they can A&A themselves, they can rebuild themselves, or maybe they can consider rebuilding after 3 to 5 years, or maybe putting in 300,000 to do renovation and things like that. Because landed quantum is a little bit more higher, so buyers are a little bit more, I would say, precise in the sense of the taste that they want. So I think by first adding in that A&A floor space, maybe you will want to justify in terms of the costing, whether is it worth it or not.
Yep.
Right. Rama, would you like to go?
Yeah, it's just a little different from HDB houses and condos. You see, you cannot change the GFA, but for landed property, it's different. If it is only a single floor and there's a potential to build it up, naturally you can build it up. And when you build it up, the value, now this time is the actual value. The actual value actually goes up, all right? It's no longer the perceived value. But then again, like what Melvin says, you may want to do it to your styles, and that might not be desirable for the buyer. So at the end of the day, that's where developers come in. They come up with their architects and everything. They buy this property, they build it up, and they sell it for a higher price. So yeah.
Mm, right. Okay. So, Wilson, right. In your own experience, right. I have. So this is a question from Fiona Chu, right. So for units with outdoor balconies, so kind of open balconies, or units that have like these rooftop terraces, large rooftop terraces that are on the upper level, perhaps a penthouse unit. Do you have any suggestions on what they can do with these spaces that can also help increase or improve the market value for the
Wow.
apartments?
This one really very gray area. Okay. Of course, based on BCA, right, we're not allowed to build anything on top lah, because of the open space, because you affect your this GFA, correct? Yeah, so but of course there's some way like example, there's one product called Zip Thread. Okay, this thread is a very special product that you can actually open up and close down. So subject to approve, whether the MCST approve you to cover up with this zip thread, because this thread come with a roof. So if end of the day, right, this zip thread can remove, then the roof will open up, the sideway will open up. So some MCFT they are okay to approve, some is not, because the rule is we can't have any fixed item there or fixed item. Also, this is quite gray area lah. But anyway, if you have this type of issue, right, do let me know. I will try my best to give you my professional view lah. Yeah, this one no problem at all.
Right. And speaking of gray areas, as well as making maximum use of
Yes.
space within the unit, right? We have a question from Sean Ng. Right? Is it true that the maximum allowable size for a loft is 5 square meters? And is it possible to build a loft that's more than 5 square meters if the GFA is already included?
Well, again, this one also gray area lah. Okay. The rule always changing, like last time, 10 years back, 20 years back, I don't think so. There's one rule called 5 square meter. But I think nowadays, yes, BCA did fit that there's a 5 square meter rule that you must follow. All right, again, if the MCST allow you to build bigger, right, then we have to proceed to have a PE engineer come in to draw a drawing to show the MCST that this loft is strong enough to support, because some homeowner, right, as you know, some people, right, they just want to do as big as possible. So whether can take the weight, people like me are 80 kg, right? Some people are only 40 kg. So how to justify 3% stand on top, the whole thing won't collapse. So 5 square meter is the most safe one. All right. So if let's say more than that, again, look for me. I'll give you my professional view. Then we can carry on from there. Yeah.
Right. And we have actually we have a lot of listeners who were really interested in what you said earlier about using bleach to sort of unstain the marble.
Like that, later on I open a live FB join me, my rest and relax.
Right.
Everything.
Perhaps you could just recap the 2 tips that you gave earlier again. The first one is to just pour bleach over the stain.
Yes.
Right, and then the second one is to add on a layer of cling wrap on top of it. Is that correct?
Yes. And I'll let you know which type of bridge to buy. Don't anyhow buy. There's so many brands in Singapore. You call me, I give you my professional view.
And can bleach also take away rust stains from the kitchen tops as well? So this is
depends. Because for the kitchen top, right, it's a different type of material. So bridge is only work very strong when it's a real stone, natural stone. Yeah, but nowadays, right, the tabletop will be like quartz or some like high quartz and this type of marble granite. Yeah, so it's different type of top you're using, different type of product to clean it.
Okay, right. So Rama and Melvin, we have some questions from the audience about, if they buy the units, if they buy the property and they plan to sell it, after the MOP or the SSD period, also the stamp duty period, whether it's a HDB or private, if they plan to sell it after 3 years or 5 years, should they just keep it in the original condition, don't do any renovations work to it, or just to spruce it up as much as possible, just to renovate as nice as possible?
Right.
I think the first thing is their own comfort level. I mean, as what Melvin said earlier, it's a big ticket item. You're buying to stay there for at least the next 3 years or 5 years. So you need to be comfortable first. So my suggestion is don't overdo anything, all right? Because when you overdo something, it becomes smaller. The space becomes smaller. And I've noticed many of them, they just believe in built-in stuff, and they do so much of built-in that suddenly the space looks very small. So apart from that, if they already have a plan or a mindset to sell in the next 3 years or 5 years, then I think they know what they want. All right. So basic stuff that makes them comfortable is enough. All right. And the rest, when they're about to sell, they can get to their real estate agent, ask them for their specialized advice, like what you've discussed earlier in the last 30, 40 minutes. Okay, what can be done to spruce up and make the house ready for selling? Yeah, for the best price.
Yeah, I agree with Rama. I think there are a few consideration points whether you want to do renovation or not. Firstly, I think if let's say the property that you're purchasing has a lot of inherent factors meaning that these are factors that you cannot change internally. For example, it has a lot of good factors that are external and is beneficial to your unit. Like maybe you have a beautiful unblocked view that is in a very quiet and serene kind of facing. There's no strong afternoon sun. It's a direct north-south facing, super windy, and you got a very good premium unit. Then I think if the inherent factors are beneficial for your unit, then perhaps if based on your preference you want to live there for 5 years or 3 years and you don't feel like renovating it, you just want to invest in good furniture, then I think it's based on your comfort level. You can just go ahead and design it with nice furnitures and things like that, and you don't really have to do too much. But I think if your inherent factors are a little bit on a lower scale, maybe you saw a unit on I mean, in Singapore, a lot of people prefer like high floor units and stuff, right? But let's say, for example, you find a unit that on level two that you really like, but you try to visualize that maybe 3 to 5 years later when you want to put it in the market, and the buyer audience potentially might be a little bit smaller, then maybe you want to invest a little bit on renovation because these are things that you can change. But I would say that you can talk to your ID or talk to Wilson, like, but get renovation that's a little bit more timeless. Try to visualize after 3 5 years, will this still be in trend? Is it too over loud? Is it too overbearing? Will my renovation reduce my buyer audience, or will my renovation cater to more audiences? So try to keep it a little bit more neutral, more timeless, more functional, pleasing to the eye. So I think I agree not to overly invest in renovation that constricts your audience in the future. Get something done that expands your audience in the 5 years time frame.
Right. So if you're looking to sell in the next few years, try to keep it as is, or try to keep the design, the renovations as timeless, as classic as possible. But if you're definitely looking to live there for like a lot more,
Yeah.
a longer time,
Then go ahead. Yeah,
yeah,
just
keep
do
it as
something that you
comfortable as
love.
possible.
Yes, yes.
Mm. Right. Right. So we have a question from Shelly Ho. Right. If we do home staging, right, to create photos and videos, what you said earlier, home staging services that are just for a few hours only, and then uh, they take it away, but then when the buyers come and they see the property, and there's basically a difference, a huge difference, right? So how will that work then? Does that actually, um, sort of
Mm.
disadvantage the sellers?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start first. So I think this will cater to units that are tenanted, and perhaps you're planning to sell with tenancy, and maybe you have a different objective. You saw something that you like, but you're currently invested in this property. You want to exit and stuff like that. I think the key is communication with your potential buyer before they come to view the place. So I think in terms of advertising and marketing your place, you can at first communicate directly with the buyers first, or your salesperson can do that. Just let them know, hey, these photographs were done on a 1 day staging event. This is just to show you what it can potentially look like in the event. If you buy the house, you do it up to your own liking. Just some examples for you to have a good view of the place. But currently the place is tenanted, so I hope you understand our tenants have their own lifestyle, they have kids, they have their own preferences. So the house is as how the tenants would like to live their lives on. So just to preempt you before you come for the viewing. So I think the key is communication before the viewing happens, so that at least the buyers don't get a shock. They see beautiful photographs, but when they come to the physical place, it's just a huge difference.
I think there are also some vendors, right? I think if the buyer really likes the furnitures, they are willing to sell it to them, if I remember correctly. So there are vendors like that too. So again, you need to communicate with the vendor as well as your sellers and buyers and tenants. Yeah.
So we have a question from Brendan Ng, right? Does the private lift, so some luxury units, some luxury properties, they come with private lifts. Does that improve the home value? Can they do anything to the private lift foyer area that can help to impress potential buyers?
I think it's
Perhaps.
purely a benefit. I mean, it's a benefit that the buyer gets, all right, in terms of privacy, all right. So it's the private lift. So again, it's all depends, but some people they prefer private lifts. So when they are buying, and most probably during new launch, you would get the real estate agents explaining to you these features, all right, and what the benefits are. So if you ask me whether it improves the value of the property, to a certain extent, yes. It's again how the real estate agent markets the place in terms of privacy and what the a buyer wants. So it's their wants and needs basically.
Mm. Wilson, what in your experience? You have so many years, 20 years of experience in home design and renovations. What do you think are the biggest mistakes you have seen in your career that no homeowners like to make when renovating their units that kind of harms their own properties, value?
Okay, I don't say a bigger mistake lah. Okay, make us one case, right? Young couple they get married, so they are not planning to have any kids in 5 years. So they knock the door, knock here, knock there, become just one bedroom. But after that, right, they accidentally have a baby. Wow, they must build back the whole thing. So I think that as an ID, right, normally we will ask homeowner, right, what is their plan, how long they're going to stay. Normally, if let's say in 5 years' time they want to have kids, right, we will cater the room for the kids in the future. If not, after 5 years later, they'll call us again and they'll redo the whole house, and you'll waste the time and money. So I think normally some homeowner they maybe never plan how long you're going to stay, and also what is the function to use in future. All right, another one, one owner, right, stay in the landed house. So he imagined that he will go to the rooftop to barbecue, then he done our rooftop around 80 to 100,000. Right? End of the day, right, I think 1 year only go 3 times. Okay, first of all, the roof, the landed have no lift. So it's very strong to walk up and down. Yeah, so this is some people that maybe they don't really, maybe they don't understand what they want, especially like a bathtub. I always think that the bathtub will make us feel relaxed and that, right? But years to years, right, the bathtub next time they must climb on top and bathe. It's not to sleep down there. Yeah. So this is some of the thing that sometimes homeowner must know whether you use the bird. It's always like thing and you use is different. Yeah. Of course, just how our brother Rahman have said, don't overdo the house, especially to build a lot of cabinet. Yeah. Because to tear away the whole house, example as a renovation, right? We go out there and we remove everything, right? It might be 15% of the cost of the renovation, because to tear down, to throw away, to hack the floor, everything, you come down to extra cost on that.
Right. So when any sellers, for all three of you, when you have sellers looking to sell their property, and sometimes the property they have all these wear and tear, things that are broken, there are defects. What are the top three most important defects that you think that the sellers must fix before selling their properties?
Me first?
Yes, sure, go ahead.
Okay, I think the most important thing, a very, very important one, when we do research flat, right, the first thing what we check, you guess what we check? Water leakage. Very important, because this is a very big issue. Because if let's say in private house, right, if let's say there's a water leakage, right, then this will be a very long journey, especially the owner is not staying in Singapore, they rent out a house, then we need to write letter here and there, For HDB, it's quite straightforward. We just need to call the town council or HDB, they'll come and settle. So to me, right, the first major problem, right, to go inside a research track, right, must check the waterproofing.
Yeah. What about you, Rama? What do you think?
Well, since it's really mentioned waterproofing, I think the other thing is lighting of the house. If it is dim, I think it's a pure turn off. The moment you enter the house, you feel, there's some houses you might not want to take a step further because it's really scary. I think in the line of work, Melvin and the rest of them would have seen such houses. So I think lighting is a very, very important aspect,
Mm,
Yeah, I think lighting definitely. Just now, Wilson has mentioned about curtains and paintwork is extremely important. I mean, somehow over the years, we've just noticed that there are certain colors that constricts the amount of audiences' preferences in terms of their impression of the place. I mean, sometimes, I mean, paint colors can be changed easily, but I think we are all human beings with five senses, and I think it's very important to keep the paint colors in a very neutral palette compared to very bold colors. Because, for example, just for example, there's been so many properties that strangely enough, when they are like very bright green or dark green or dark purple, and then we advise the owner to just repaint it for a very nice tone of beige color or maybe just a pure white. It just instantly changes the feel of the place, and it opens up a lot more audiences. Because I mean, in Singapore, we are in a multiracial society, so we have so-called different people with different preferences. I mean, some families might like a bolder color, some families might like a lighter tone, but I think white or lighter tone caters to most people. So I think most importantly is to position your product that helps most buyers take time to really appreciate things more than just what are things on the surface, so that when they come in, they don't let their visual impact obstruct them from looking at the pros and cons of the place, the true value of the property. But this will actually help them to stay a little bit longer, just to look at the place a little bit more.
All right, so we've kind of well, we've run out of time. This is
Oh,
such an interesting topic, and I'm sure we have so many more questions that have come in. Right, we will try to answer them. Perhaps after the program, after the panel discussion, perhaps all of you, the three of you, can get onto our Facebook page and answer some of the questions that are available there in the comments. Right, I thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you to all the audience for joining us. Right, as all of you may know, we have a lucky draw that's happening. Right? So cash prizes of $100 each, right? So shall we see how who has won the prize? Shall we go ahead with the lucky draw and see who has won? All right. So this is not too late. If you want to win the lucky draw, do register and sign up now. It's not too late yet, right? So maybe let's just do a couple more questions, right, before we wrap up. The signing up for the lucky draw, to let people have some time to sign up and to register for it so that they can win the cash prizes. Now, we have a question from Adeline Wu. Right. Now, if the buyer asks for existing furniture to be left behind for them, so Rama and Melvin, you probably have experienced this before. The buyer liking the place so much as it is, right? The way they view them, they ask the seller to leave the furniture behind. Can the seller ask the buyer to pay for them on top of the property selling price?
I love this question, man. That means they already like the house. It's the furniture. So yeah, I mean, it's again subjective. So unless the seller also loves his furniture dearly, then there's an issue. Most of the time, I think the furnitures that a seller may not want to let go of, maybe their beds or bed frames or mattresses, such things. But apart from that, I think what the commentator is asking is about more of the living room furnitures. I think yeah, it can be added together with the value of the house, or they can handle it separately. I think if I remember correctly, in the HDB terms, you can actually have a list of inventory that you can sell together with the house. Yeah.
Mm. Melvin, do you have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, so usually before we market the property, we usually communicate with our clients first to see, are there any furnitures that they intend to leave it open for discussion. In Singapore, I mean, resale properties, the default is that all fittings and fixtures will be left behind for the next homeowner. So things like kitchen cabinets, the air cons, the light fittings, and things like that. All these are by default. It will be left behind for the next homeowner. So if there are furnitures that the buyers are interested in, then it will be definitely a separate discussion. Unless during the marketing, the seller has specifically says that if any buyers are keen in the furnitures, they'll be very happy to leave behind, and they're happy to just put it together with the final selling price. So then when we market the property, we will share with the buyer that furnitures are a bonus. If you like it, owners can leave behind. If you don't like it, owners can also remove. So I think, yes, like what Rama mentioned, it is really up for discussion. It's a very flexible thing, but by default, it is not included in the sale. So it's really a communication thing between the seller and buyer. So if let's say you are the homeowner, the main intention is not to include the furniture, then definitely you can negotiate separately, right? You can negotiate with the buyer separately on how much is this piece of furniture that you are willing to sell to them for and things like that.
Mm, right. Okay. So sometimes it's not about furniture. Sometimes it's just about, the apartment itself or where the apartment is facing or the location. We have a question uh from we have a question from an audience who is talking Zheng Ken Tai, who asks whether for condo unit with tennis court that's facing a tennis court, how can they market the unit? Whether it's for staging or for viewing, for this less desirable attributes, how can they market the unit?
So yeah,
Perhaps.
maybe it all depends on different types of buyers. Okay, some people actually prefer the tennis court to be nearby because they don't want to walk very far. Because it all depends on the size of the project. It could be as a big project like Bishop Park. You may have to walk a real distance to go to the tennis court. But some of the other places, the tennis court might be near, so it's a matter of convenience. So again, it's not about it's again, I would still give it to the real estate agent who's marketing the place and their skill set to actually sell that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is such a great session, and like I said earlier, we still have so many questions from the audience that we've yet to cover. So all of you who still have more questions, please put them in the comments on our Facebook post, and then you can also perhaps our experts here, our market experts here, can also come to answer them after the session later when they have time. Just answer to the comments. Right, our lucky draw is ready. Right, it's close. Ding, 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 ding. So let's find out who are our winners for this session of lucky draw.